Barrister Godwin Ikoiwak had suspected that his wife was cheating on him. He also had reasons to believe that he may not have been the real father of his children. Ikoiwak had planned to talk to his in-laws about these troubling suspicions. After he reached out to them, the in-laws summoned him to come to their family house in the village so that they could discuss the matter. Ikoiwak, completely unaware of the gravity of the allegations he had just leveled on his wife, decided to innocently honor their request, but that would be the very last time he would ever be seen alive. On January 19, 2022, 41-year-old Godwin Ikoiwak left his home in Oyo, Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria, and drove to his wife's family house in Ikono local government area within the same Akwa Ibom State. Before relocating to Oyo, he had been living with his mother-in-law for some time, often traveling daily to work at the Ministry of Justice from her home. The respected lawyer had recently made shocking discoveries about his wife, Abasesebanga Ikoiwak, and what he found was something that would shake any man to his core. His wife had allegedly been unfaithful, and worse still, she had been living a lie that involved their entire family. On January 20, 2022, Ikoiwak failed to appear in court for an important case he was handling. His colleague made excuses for him, telling the court that he was not feeling well. After the court session, the same colleague called to check on him, but surprisingly, it was Ikoiwak's wife who answered the phone. She explained to him that her husband was sick, but what the colleague did not know was that Ikoiwak was already dead. His body had been secretly moved to St. Luke's Hospital in Oyo, where it was deposited in the mortuary. Also, the woman who had just spoken about her husband being sick had already begun making plans to cover up the truth about the circumstances that led to his horrible death. Meanwhile, Abasesebanga, who worked at the Court of Appeal in Calabar, acted as if nothing had happened. She reportedly went to work normally, and her colleagues had no idea that she had just lost her husband. She did not inform Ikoiwak's elderly parents, who lived in the same city where she was working, about their son's death. When Abasesebanga finally contacted her husband's family, she told them a carefully crafted story that would end up raising more questions than answers. She claimed she had been in Port Harcourt when she received a call from her husband saying he was having an asthma attack. She said she told him to go to the hospital immediately while she hired a taxi to rush back to Uyo. According to her version of the story, Ikoiwak had driven himself to St. Luke's Hospital but died shortly after arrival. She claimed to have found his car in the hospital parking lot with the keys still in the ignition. She even handed over some of his office files to a junior lawyer, claiming she was following her husband's instructions. However, there was something strange about her behavior. Abasesebanga refused to give Ikoiwak's family access to his body. She reportedly held onto the mortuary receipt, which was needed to allow them entry. For an entire week, she denied his family the right to see their late son. When the family finally gained access to the body, they were horrified by what they found. Ikoiwak's elder brother noticed severe injuries that told a different story from the official cause of death. There was a deep cut above his left eye, and his lips showed burn marks. There were also marks on his hands and legs, suggesting that he had been tied up. The mortician also revealed that when Ikoiwak was brought in, he was already dead. According to him, he had to force embalming fluid into the body, an act that is only necessary when someone has been dead for some time. These discoveries led the family to immediately request an autopsy with toxicology testing. They suspected foul play, and in a few days, their instincts would prove tragically correct. On March 15, 2020, the pathologists read the autopsy results in front of Ikoiwak's family, police officers, and Abasesebanga's lawyer. However, Abasesebanga herself refused to attend, stating that she was not interested in the results. The pathologists confirmed that Ikoiwak had not died from asthma, as claimed by the wife's family. Instead, he had been murdered in the most brutal way possible. The evidence showed that he had been tied up with his hands bound behind his back, thereby putting pressure on his ribcage. There were also marks on his legs, indicating that he had been restrained. The most horrific discovery was the fact that he had been forced to swallow a toxic insecticide known locally as Utapiapia or sniper. This meant that his killers had tied him up, beaten him, fed him the insecticide, and they stood by and watched as he died a slow, agonizing death from the poisoning. It was also discovered that while Ikoiwak was being murdered, his wife was in Calabar, allegedly coordinating with her family members through multiple phone calls. investigation revealed that she had been in constant contact with her mother, sister, and brother during the time of the murder. After confirming her husband's death, Abaseseban's first call was not to his family or the police, but to a popular Reverend Father known as Father Maurice Mbeke. This priest would go on to play a crucial role in the cover-up that followed. Abaseseban's behavior after the murder raised many red flags. She immediately applied for and received approval to collect her husband's benefits from the Akwa Ibom state government even before he was buried. Two unknown men, identified as her brothers, were said to have moved into Ikoiwak's house and removed his belongings, telling the gateman that they were following the late lawyer's instructions. When the time for the burial came, Abaseseban reportedly refused to attend her husband's funeral. She also wrote a petition to the police force criminal headquarters in Abuja against all of Ikoiwak's family members, including his 93-year-old father and 62-year-old mother, claiming they were threatening her life. Further investigation later revealed the shocking truth behind Ikoiwak's murder. The respected lawyer had discovered that his wife had been living a lie that involved not just her entire family, but also some prominent church leaders. As a teenager, Abaseseban lived with a popular Catholic priest in the state, identified as Reverend Father Maurice Mbeke. During this time, the priest had allegedly impregnated her and she gave birth to a son. When Abaseseban eventually married Ikoiwak in 2017, her family deceived him into believing that the child she had from the Reverend Father was her younger brother. According to reports, the boy was even named after Father Mbeke's maternal grandfather. For years, Ikoiwak unknowingly raised and cared for a child born from an illicit relationship between his wife and a Catholic priest. The boy was reportedly 14 years old when Ikoiwak married Abaseseban, and he moved in with the couple after their marriage. Unfortunately, the deception didn't end there. Ikoiwak had also discovered that his wife was allegedly having an affair with her former employer. Additionally, according to his friend's testimony, each time his wife claimed to be pregnant, Ikoiwak would not be allowed to see her until after delivery, when she would simply present the child and say, "This is your child." He was made to believe that where his wife came from, it was considered an abomination for him to live with her after she had taken in. These discoveries motivated Ikoiwak to confront his wife and demand DNA tests to determine the paternity of their children. It was this confrontation that led to the fatal family meeting. An investigation by the Department of State Services (DSS) revealed a complex conspiracy involving multiple people. Phone records showed that on January 19, 2022, Abaseseban had multiple conversations with Reverend Father Maurice Mbeke, the same priest who had allegedly fathered her child years earlier. After Ikoiwak had been killed, Father Maurice called Reverend Father Gabriel Eko, the administrator of St. Luke's Hospital, to arrange for a forged death certificate. Father Ekong then instructed Dr. Imo Johnson to prepare false medical records, claiming that Ikoiwak had been treated for asthma complications but had died at the hospital. The conspiracy was designed to hide the fact that Ikoiwak had died at his mother-in-law's place in Ikono village. The false death certificate was meant to prevent any suspicion from his family, with whom Abaseseban reportedly had a very poor relationship. Following the autopsy results and public pressure from Ikoiwak's friends and concerned citizens, the police finally took action. In a sting operation, Abaseseban's mother was arrested at her house in Ikono, Akwa Ibom State. By April 2023, 6 people had been charged in connection with Ikoiwak's murder. These 6 people included the wife, the mother-in-law, the sister-in-law, the doctor who falsified the death certificate, the Reverend Father who was the hospital administrator, and another medical doctor. The trial stretched over 2 years, with prosecutors calling 18 witnesses and presenting 51 exhibits. The evidence established that Ikoiwak had died from insecticide poisoning while at his mother-in-law's house, and that his body had been secretly moved to the hospital to create the false impression that he had died there. On June 30, 2025, Justice Basin Kanang delivered the verdicts. 5 of the 6 defendants were convicted, while one of them was acquitted of all charges. The wife, Abaseseban, was convicted of conspiracy and accessory after murder, but acquitted of murder itself. She was sentenced to just 2 years imprisonment, and the sentence had commenced on February 18, 2022, which means that she is currently a free woman. The mother-in-law, Margaret Patrick Umon, was convicted of murder and conspiracy. She was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. The sister-in-law, Owoidogo Patrick Umon, was also convicted of murder and conspiracy. She was sentenced to just 10 years imprisonment. Dr. Imo Johnson was convicted of issuing a false death certificate and was sentenced to 2 years imprisonment. Reverend Father Gabriel Ekong was convicted of issuing a false death certificate as a public officer and was sentenced to 4 years imprisonment. Dr. Isaac Njoku was the one who was acquitted of all charges. The judge stated that the reason he gave reduced sentences was because all of them were first-time offenders. He also mentioned that the mother-in-law was an elderly woman and that the sister-in-law had a young baby at the time the crime was committed. The ridiculous sentences sparked outrage from both the prosecution and Ikoiwak's family. Many felt that the punishment were too lenient for such a brutal murder. Ikoiwak's friend, who had been the last person to speak with him before his death, questioned why key figures like Father Maurice Mbeke had not been charged at all. The family and their supporters argued that the sentences did not reflect the severity of the crime. They pointed out that Ikoiwak had been bound, beaten and forced to ingest poison while his killers watched him die slowly. Most importantly, Reverend Father Maurice Mbeke, who appeared to be at the center of the conspiracy and had allegedly fathered Abasese Banga's child, was never charged, despite his apparent role in coordinating the cover-up. A notice of appeal has been served, and the family is hoping to fight to get the justice they truly deserve. What are your thoughts on those verdicts? Share your opinion in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories.